Good evening, all respected seniors and fellow pediatricians. The flu season is on. All the doctors are tremendously busy, not getting time even for their meals. Still, we are here on 1st of August with a new episode of Journal Journey. While the Western world is advancing with artificial intelligence and space tourism, we are still battling against vitamin deficiencies, malnutrition, and a vicious cycle of infections. We have to break this at right time. Our today's topic is aptly chosen for this problem of our world, which is going to advise you for prevention, and prevention is always better than cure. First of all, we welcome all the dignitaries who are present on the dais. Dr. Chetan Trivedi had agreed to be guest of honor. May I request Maha-IAP President, Dr. Hemant Gangolia, to bless us for this episode. Over to sir.
Thank you, madam. Good evening and namaste to our today's this episode of Journal Journey. And we have expert Dr. Naresh Taide sir from Amravati, as well as we have the who will read the article for us. Journal article reading is an art, and so we have Dr. Dattatreya Kulkarni also from Latur, who will be reading the article. And we are extremely fortunate to have Dr. Suchitra also, madam, from Hyderabad on the dais, my state convener, Dr. Jay Kumar Bhandarkar, editor, Dr. Neha Singh, as well as my Raigad IAP president, Dr. Pramod Wankhede sir, on the dais, as well as all the viewers on the Maha-IAP YouTube channel. Usually in all episodes, we have 2 articles, but today we are having 1 article because it's a vast and micronutrients is mostly ignored. And most of them, we don't have the knowledge about the micronutrients, how it should be used and how it can be utilized. As well, because this is the World Waste Feeding Week going on, so there is the importance of micronutrient complementary feeding also after 6 months. So we have here Madam Dr. Suchitra also, she will highlight on this point also. So we are fortunate to have the great speakers as well as the experts, and let us learn what is the role of the micronutrients, and we will be enlightened by the article reading as well as our experts, Dr. Naresh Taide sir and Dr. Suchitra madam. Wish each one happy learning and happy journal journey. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. And now may I request Raigad IAP President, Dr. Pramod Wankhede, to say a few words, as this journal journey is continued by Maha-IAP, but it was a brainchild of Raigad IAP. Over to you, sir. Sir, please unmute.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much. Respected Mohanty sir, the main force behind this program, our Maha-IAP President, Dr. Gangulia sir, our guest of honor, Dr. Trivedi sir, today's expert, Dr. Naresh Taide, is also president of IAP Amravati. Both the moderators, excellent moderators, they are equally excellent with the speakers and the expert also. Dr. Chitra Kulkarni ma'am and Dr. Suchitra ma'am, Dr. Jay Bhandarkar, convener, our dynamic secretary, Dr. Amol Pawar, and my dear friends. First of all, good evening to you all. This journal journey is an excellent journey. The driving force behind is Dr. Mohanty sir, Dr. Chitra ma'am, Dr. Jay Bhandarkar, Dr. Neha, and of course, the inspiration from Dr. Gangulia sir. Recently, we have already completed 1 milestone of year last month also. And I hope that this journey won't stop in between. It will go on and on and on. I extend my best wishes to this Journey Club. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wankhede.
Madam, because of busy schedule and he's in emergency, Dr. Chetan Trivedi sir, who was expected to be guest of honor, cannot make. If he comes in between, so just take care. We will just ask him to say whenever the talk gets finished.
Yes, sir. And I also acknowledge presence of Dr. Anjali Gokarna, who is President IIP Palghar. Welcome, Dr. Anjali. Now I hand over mic to Dr. Jay Bhandarkar for introduction of expert as well as speaker.
Good evening to all, and again my best wishes to all the actually the dignitaries present on the dais, of the dais, all names taken by Gangule sir and Pramod sir, and I welcome our new guest Dr. Suchitra from the Hyderabad. तो हमारी थोड़ी हिंदी में बात करूंगा. We reached to the Hyderabad. तो हैदराबाद गए तो बहुत आगे चले गए like that. Thank you for joining today. And I have my pleasure to introduce Dr. Naresh Tade sir. He was one of the contestants for the first academic quiz we conducted during Corona period, and we met at today as a basic quiz also. So sir is a fellowship in clinical genetics. Basically, he's at present president IIP Amravati, and as well as president Sickle Health Society Amravati. He's associate professor of Dr. PD MMC Amravati and director of Life Care Hospital Amravati. He's a special interest in genetic and metabolic disease. At the outset, I thank him. Just called 2-3 days back, and he accepted graciously to be an expert for this today's very important topic. To already talk about the micronutrients. And thank you. And our speaker is Dr. Dattatreya Kulkarni. He's my neighbor. I'm from Sholapur. He's from the Latur. He's a consultant neonatologist, and they run a Vithai Super Specialty Hospital in the Latur, Level 3 Neonatal Care Unit, as well as the associate professor at the Medical College, YCR Hospital, Latur, and his visits to the Fernandes Hospital, Hyderabad, as well as post. He's a junior consultant as well as a senior resident for JMC Kota, and he's a runner-up at the IIP Zonal Quiz. And in 2014 at Billite, and has presented various research papers. So he's also Best Research Paper Award in the IIP Neocon Bangalore 2019. I welcome Dr. Dattatreya Kulkarni for this important session, and thanks him also for accepting our invitation as a speaker. So thank you very much. As well as I introduce to Dr. Suchitra is going to present. This complementary feeding is very, very important. She is MD Pediatrics and associate professor of pediatrics from Gandhi Medical College and Hospital. She was the IIP TCP vice president 2022 and convener of this IIP Women's in Telangana state. So she is my counterpart in the Telangana state. Thank you for that. And she's a national faculty for NRP, IIP, NNF, FGM India, as well as she's a TOT trainer as for many CIP sessions, and this is gold medal 2011 in the 32 IIP AP state conference, and she almost have 8 research publication, and she's awarded for the pediatric COVID services in the state of Descendant Center. So I welcome her and thanks her also, Dr. Suchitra, for coming this important session. So dhanyawad, and thank you Chitra Kulkarni madam giving me the opportunity to introduce all of these stalwart experts and as well as the speaker, and welcome to this beautiful journey which is going on and on, as Pramod Wankhede says. So first birthday ho gaya hai, abhi second year mein humne entry kiya hai, so hope so, because this is one of the way of happy learning and very different type of, and I love it especially. And there is no reading of articles. Actually, the articles are properly studied for information to all. They are selected, they are discussed, they are presented, and already they are expert advice given to the speaker or presenter to modify it, and so that it can be presented well. So अच्छी तरह से खिचड़ी बना के, खिचड़ी ने कहूँगा तो proper important subject उसमें discuss करके, and another thing, all practical points are taken in that, as well as the article content. Even that article we can very well, I can say, सिर्फ अच्छी बात ही नहीं, उसमें कुछ अगर डिफिकल्टी है, कुछ रह गया है, वो भी एक्सप्लेन किया जाता है. So all the best, Dr. Dattatreya, and all of you for this. I know everyone is very busy, but happy faces are always there. दो साल तो happy faces pediatrician के नहीं थे, अभी दिख रहे हैं, तो ये अच्छी बात है. Thank you.
Yeah, over to Dr. Dattatreya. Please share your screen.
So at the beginning, I would like to thank Maha IIP, Dr. Hemant sir, and IIP Raigad, and this IIP journal journey. And special thanks to Chitra ma'am and Mohanty sir for motivating me, because it is a topic not much related to me being neonatologist, but I am happy to learn on this podium. So I am going to talk on micronutrient fortified complementary foods in infant and young children aged 6 to 23 months. So it is a systemic review and meta-analysis. So moving forward, in my talk, I would like to touch upon what is a complementary food, what are different types of it, then what are the things specifically to read when we are going through a systemic review meta-analysis. And lastly, I will touch on infant young children guidelines on complementary food in the short, but anyways, there is a talk followed by Suchitra ma'am. So, and today's topic of interest is our systemic review meta-analysis. So first we have to understand that what is a complementary food. So it is a food started at 6 months of age along with breastfeeding. So there are two types. One is central and second is home fortified. What we understand by central fortification is during the production of food or at processing level. So basically at industry level itself, food is being added, the needed micronutrient is central fortification. The second is home fortification. So what we understand by home fortification is before the use of actual food. So we can add the food, we can add by syrup or any powder form or like this. So we are adding in a powder form, sprinkler form, syrup form to the food before uses like a point of care. It is a home fortification. So little bit that what is a complete food? The food which contains carbohydrate, protein, fat, minerals, vitamins, and iron. So it contains all is complete food. And what we understand by balanced food is the food which contains all above in a appropriate proportion. So practically there is nothing like a perfectly complete or perfectly balanced. So what we have to way forward is we have to understand something minimum diet diversity. So among the 7 food groups, we should have at least 4 food groups to be included in a baby's plate. So among grain, roots, tubers, whatever staple food in a given community, we can choose. Then legumes and nuts. So these are pulses, nuts, oilseed, like that. So the third one is vitamin A rich. So typically green, yellow, orange vegetable fruits or fruits which are colorful. So these are vitamin A rich fruits and vegetables. Followed by other seasonal fruits, vegetable is a fifth category. Followed by dairy products, and then egg and flesh food. So in a baby's plate, we should have diversity, and we should have at least representation from the what we mentioned is either four of this. So that is the minimum dietary diversity. So that is what we can practically use it. That will be a perfect plate for our baby. So little bit on systemic review meta-analysis. So it is a combined synthesis of multiple studies, particularly a randomized control trial or clinical control. So what it differentiates from other studies is higher on the pyramid, research pyramid. So it is likely quality of evidence will be more, and the bias risk is little less. So that's why it makes special of systemic review meta-analysis. So systemic review, it is with a clear focused question in the mind. To know the answer for given focused question, we are using a rigorous methodology to identify then select and critically appraisal a relevant research. And meta-analysis is we are using different statistical techniques to quantify a result of all these studies for better understanding and to simplify in a quantitative way. So this is a anatomy of a result of a systemic review and meta-analysis. So what it first column contains a study group and the year of publication. Second column is there are two groups or two arms which are being compared in a given study. The fourth one is weight of a given individual study. And the fifth one is either mean difference or risk ratio based on what is being studied in this systemic review meta-analysis. The second we have to look at is confidence interval. So 95 confidence interval of a given all individual studies and a total 95 confidence interval. So, and second, lastly, we have to look at the I-square. So I-square is for heterogeneity. So this is a forest plot. What to look at the forest plot? The vertical line is a null line. It is an effect of null effect. The horizontal axis on either side. So right side will favors a one group and left will be favoring other group. So in that, the horizontal line represent individual study result. So wider the line, wider the confidence interval. Narrow the line, narrow the confidence interval. And in the line, there is a box. So size of the box represent the weightage of a study. And overall effect of all the lines and overall studies is a diamond. So the sum. So what is a learning point of quick line is larger the sample size, less variable, there will be less error, and there will be precise estimation. So that is what we wanted from a given study. So this is another pictorial representation. So the first study is very narrow confidence interval with a big size box. So it is quite a study with very narrow confidence interval, and weight of the study is very high. So, and the second or third and fourth line is they are very wider line and the box size is very small. So they are very less precise and they are not weightage of the study for interpretation is very less. And the last one is a diamond. So diamond is on left side. So whatever on the left side is favoring from a given result. So this is how we read a systemic review meta-analysis, whatever we are reading. So at the end of preparing systemic review meta-analysis, they publish in a journal or a conference following PRISMA guideline. So in PRISMA guideline, there are 27 checklists and they are followed up. Once they gone through the all checklists, then only the journal or conferences will accept that systemic review meta-analysis. But we never know the quality of journal and what is the index factor of a journal. So we have to check personally PRISMA guidelines. So we will now, with this much basic understanding, we will go now to the study article proper. So what is the title of our systemic review meta-analysis? We are looking at health outcomes with micronutrient fortified complementary food in an infant and young children with age group of 6 to 20 month age group, a systemic review meta-analysis. So what we note in the time is most of the evidence has 2016 to 2012 with wide range of intervention being studied. And the outcome they looked at is very narrow. So now in recent time, last 3 years, there are two Cochrane reviews, two both from India. One is Susdev and Das et al., where they looked at small quantity lipid-based nutritional supplement, and one is micronutrient powder added to the food. So these they have proven that they had shown reduction in a micronutrient deficiencies. So that was a basis to move forward. So this was a first systemic review on fortified versus non-fortified complementary food in a 6 to 23 month of age And the prominent result was there was probable reduction of anemia by 43%. So what was the objective? To assess whether the use of micronutrient fortified complementary food compared to unfortified complementary food in a 6 to 20 month age group in a healthy children, whether it would lead to improved growth, whether it decreases malnutrition, whether it decreases anemia, and whether it maintains the micronutrient store like hemoglobin concentration, serum ferritin, zinc level, and vitamin A levels. So with this objective, so what was a PICO strategy for this systemic review meta-analysis is, what was a population studied? All healthy children in a age group of 6 to 23 months. What was intervention? Centrally fortified complementary food. What was a control group? Unfortified, same complementary food. And what were the outcome were looked at? So growth by seeing weight for age, weight for height, height for age. Then malnutrition by looking at stunting and wasting proportions, micronutrient excess and adequacy, then anemia prevalence, then the different micronutrient levels like hemoglobin concentration, ferritin level, serum zinc level, and serum retinal level. What they excluded is those who are on milk or milk-based formulas, though babies receiving other food supplements, the micronutrient in powder form. So peripherally fortified formula, peripheral fortification food is excluded. And the fourth one is home fortification. So they are strictly looked at centrally fortified food and outcome. So the electronic database they followed is, so from Ovid, Medline, Cochrane, central registered, then cumulative index to a nursing allied health literature, then Google Index Medicus, then Web Science clinical trials. So they are gone through a varied this electronic database till March 9, 2022. And two independent authors screened the title and abstract of every retrieved record. The full text were screened for eligibility. Any disagreement were resolved through the consensus. Then data extracted were seen by one reviewer and checked for completeness, accuracy, and consistency by second reviewer. Abstract and conference proceeding were not used for data extraction. So there was almost 15,200 datas were available. So out of which 8,322 titles and abstract were matching our focused question. And at the end, only 5, there are many duplicate articles, duplicate studies were also there. So at the end, there was only 503 were eligible. Then we applied the eligibility criteria. Then only 23 studies were eligible for systemic review and 12 studies for meta-analysis. So for quantitative research. So what we understand is it follows a rigorous methodology. So where completeness at each level of a manuscript is being checked, and at the end, which are following our PICO strategy and inclusion criteria, only the result is synthesized for these studies, and they come to a conclusion that we understood from the methodology. So what are the study characteristics? So the published in a recently this month only, August 22, and the countries is most of the low middle income. So from 3 studies from Brazil, 2 from India. The Indian studies were for only acceptability trial. So whether this food was acceptable or not, that only they checked. The 3 studies from China, then each study from, so from Western is USA, there was 1 study included. So what the therapy method was, fortified foods being rice, maize, corn, beans, pulse, rusk, then any blend also. So there is a quite wide means diverse food were being used. So fortified food were diverse. Micronutrient added is most all nutrients added, but the peculiarity is iron plus others. So every micronutrient containing was iron, plus in some study iron plus other micronutrient. So this was the therapy method used, and that too centrally, so at industry and industry level. So randomization, there was 8 cluster RCTs, 3 crossover trials, and 8 parallel clinical trials. So duration of intervention from 3 days to 4 years. Outcome studies were acceptability, then hemoglobin concentration, then anemia prevalence, then this anthropometry and different micronutrient levels. So characteristic of population is all healthy individuals. So this is a little busy slide, but what we have to understand is the food was very diverse from maize to the sometimes combined also. And the intervention duration is sometimes from the 3 days till almost 10 months also. So there is an intervention period also varied. The food used also varied. And most of the studies were having 300 the sample size. And only one bigger cluster cities were having 15,000. So that must be having more weightage on a study result. That we should neutrally we have to see that this 1465 with 3 RCTs may change because it has a more weightage. These are the rest remaining. So in that also there are 2 RCTs, but were very older RCTs with 1250 sample size. So there was a risk of bias at study level, outcome level also, and methodological quality were assessed by Rovvis tools. So random sequence generation, allocation concealment, binding of outcome assessment. So there was bound to happen. Then there was incomplete outcome data reported, selective reporting of some results. Then there are sources of bias like baseline anemia status were not mentioned. The nutrient level above the upper limit or other food was not mentioned. So absence of definitive criteria, like what exact level of fortification needed for a given outcome or expectant result, and what is the quantity of food was having in a given time period, what data was not available on that. So there were 8 studies, so almost 50%. Risk of bias were there. So like randomization errors, carryover effect, deviation from intended intervention. So like using sometime fortified food and then this which we are not using, like this crossover or deviation, and then missing outcome result also in few studies. So the effect size in a reporting this meta-analysis were expressed in relative risk with 95 confidence interval rightly. Heterogeneity was studied with inconsistency test, where if the I2 depending upon the I2 level, the fixed effect or random effect method used to interpret the result, and the forest plot also used for displaying the result. So funnel plot is to see whether there is any reporting bias. So if the given study having negative outcome, the researcher or the group or funding agency may not want to wish to publish that. So in that, the funnel plot is very important. So whether it is really publishing only positive result and negative results were hidden. So that is the idea of funnel plot. So in that, with eager test, they had screened through. So depending upon the continuous or this different statistical methods rightly used in a reporting this systemic review. So potential effect of clustering were also looked at upon by sensitivity analysis, and the grade approach were used to mention the certainty of evidence like low or high or moderate level, and methodology like previously mentioned, they had gone through the all checklist of Prisma report. So coming to the most awaited, what was the result of this systemic review meta-analysis, where total the children's were 6,423. So quite a good number. There were 16 studies, 8 were randomized control, 1 was clinical control, and 7 were cluster RCTs. Means from some village or some population, then it is like clustering. So cluster RCTs, 8 RCTs and 1 clinical trial were total. And they included 5 unpublished studies also, but they are not, but the whole data is available for that 5 unpublished studies. So this is a, like, we have to have a recap of forest plot now. So this is a forest plot which is showing effect on weight for age. The I square is 9%, so there is a less heterogeneity, but the diamond is at null line, so effect was not seen. That means we can, from a graphical reading, we can understand. So for growth outcomes, there were 5 trials. Total studied children were 1,206. No difference in weight for age G score with moderate certainty of evidence, and no difference in a weight for a height G scores with moderate certainty of evidence, and no difference in a height for age scores with low certainty of evidence. So there were very less numbers in a stunting assessment. So quite good number in weight for age. So this is a second outcome. This is a forest plot showing effect on anemia. So left arm showing favoring non-fortified food, right arm showing favors fortified. So the diamond is on other side. So it is a clearly favoring. So if we go with non-fortified fat, there will be anemia. If we go with fortified fat, there will be less anemia. So almost the RR were 0.57. So there is a 43% reduction in anemia. So that we can interpret from this graphical forest plot for anemia outcome. So going through there were 6 trials. The duration of intervention from 4 months till 12 months of intervention. A good number of children studied, 1,205. Risk ratio 0.57, and here confidence intervals looks very narrow. So 0.39 to 0.82 with moderate certainty of evidence. So this is a very clear evidence. So this was on hemoglobin concentration. So those with fortified food, the diamond on that side. So those who are using fortified food clearly having more hemoglobin. And if you go through the horizontal line, most of the were on fortified side. So it's a clearly go for fortified food if you are looked at hemoglobin concentration. So for hemoglobin concentration, there were 11 trials. So quite good number, 2,175 children. The duration of intervention from 10 weeks to 12 months. So it was wide intervention. And the mean difference were 3.44 gram per liter were more. So that was hemoglobin concentration more with fortified food. So, and the peculiarity of this is for hemoglobin, they had used eager test. So nothing was hidden. So reporting bias is looked in only for hemoglobin outcome. So going further, this was ferritin, serum ferritin iron status level. So this is also diamond on right side. So total children's were 9 little less number, 903 children, 6 trials. The duration was quite wide, 10 weeks to 12 months, and ferritin was marginally higher, 0.43, but there was low certainty of evidence. So effect on serum zinc, there were only 2 trials, very less number, 333. Baseline levels were not compared. The duration of intervention was 6 months. Serum, so it was a spelling mistake, sorry. It was a zinc level, not much difference. And then coming forward, serum retinal, there was 5 trials, 475, less number, wide intervention period also. So, but there were not much difference seen because the numbers were less. And 3 studies with 275 children, there was no difference in a vitamin deficiency. Like previously anemia prevalence seen, they had tried to see vitamin A deficiency, but only 3 studies they able to get a complete manuscript and complete data. So there was less numbers. So development also looked upon. So what was the peculiarity? I will summarize. This is a little busy slide. So when they isolated like fine motor, gross motor, and mental milestone, there was no effect seen. But when they combined to intervention, they had seen a little bit higher score. So, but this is development is very only diet role is definitely there, but to comment on it is very difficult. But they had looked up. So two RCTs from acceptability, there were only two RCTs among this, and all studies they had seen on acceptance level, means whether the study population and parents included in all these RCTs where they were really acceptable for them or not. All 16 studies were acceptable. So to summarize, there was a heterogeneity because wide group of food, there was wide interval duration, and the adverse effect was reported only in one study. The different duration of intervention I already said. The rest is sensitivity analysis, means when they removed cluster RCTs, only RCTs were looked into, there was no effect seen in hemoglobin. So they removed cluster RCTs to see really effect. So it is a sensitivity analysis done. So to conclude, this funnel plot. So the only for hemoglobin outcome we had available funnel plot. Rest of the outcome they had not mentioned. So we never know really what outcomes they reported from a given manuscript. So limitation of these studies is there was large number of pre-specified outcomes in very small trials. Because the numbers were 300, only 2 to 3 RCTs were in bigger 1,000. So no data available in some studies also. So author of ongoing, like I previously told, 5 were not contracted. So ideally they should have been contracted as what is going on, what methodology they used, whether it really RCTs or whatever. So they have been not contracted to reporting the result. And the studies were from 1977 to 2020 studies. Food and micronutrient were diverse. Most of the studies were from iron alone and iron plus other. Population were like in this population, what we looked at is only 6 to 23 months. But the study population were diverse from 6 months till 5 years also. But we had looked only till 2 years only. So that was also a limitation. So there was a risk of bias and risk of uncertain bias in most of the studies. And what is a safety, what were potential adverse effect, any seen or not, whether these food are available or not. So these data were not available. So funding for this is WHO funded and the guideline development group. So that is a GDG expert. These are, they have not written this manuscript, what we are reading. And this was registered with PROSPER. So it is a quite good quality. So conclusion from our study article is fortified complementary food at central level is an effective strategy to prevent anemia in 6 to 20 months of children in a low middle income or malaria endemic. So there is a need of targeted evidence-based intervention. Dose response effect, we have to look upon what is this level of fortification and this response in particularly in anemia. Large sample size we have to see and rigorous methodology we have to follow. So this I will go to quickly. So what we
yes sir, we have to hurry because already 10 minutes have exceeded.
So this was my last slide.
Yes.
So we have to like Sampurn Vikas, we have to combine and there has to be various food only. So we have to make the food, given food, staple food energy dense, miling, then fermenting, malting, germinating. These are the ways we can make a given food more micronutrient energy dense like that. So we have to add micronutrient in powder form or other preparation. So that is very clear. Peripheral use is clear from the evidence itself. What we studied is today is the central fortified use. So what we can do at our level, basically at pediatrician level, is we can collect a data on prevalence of this micronutrient and data on best feasible micronutrient in my population. So this we can do as a pediatrician level. So thank you again. So this is my IAP Latur team. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Dattatray, for a elaborative discussion of the article. And now may I request Dr. Naresh Taide sir to comment as an expert on today's article.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Kulkarni madam. First of all, I am thankful for my IIP to give me this opportunity. Dr. Dattatray Kulkarni sir have done a wonderful presentation. They just not studied the article, but they have also given some basic idea about the RCT, which are very important for everyone to know what means by RCT and what means by the forest plot, etc. So whenever I want to say कि centrally processing the food is we have already seen successful in India, especially for the iodinated salt. We are using it and we have associated with we have the decrease in incidence of the hypothyroidism due to iodine deficiency. But as per in these studies, coming to these studies, this study is presented in the group journal that is Lancet with impact factor of 37.746, and it is one of the amongst the 130 pediatric, one of the journal from 130 pediatric journal. And as Dr. Datta say, RCTs are at the higher end of hierarchy. But personally, I feel that comparing RCTs are very difficult task because we doesn't have any central bio protocol. So there are new suggestion from the scientists that we should have everyone who is doing the study should publish their protocol beforehand, so that if another person want to do the study, he may use that protocol and follow the same protocol so that we can get the uniformity in the data. So there has to be always chance that there are some hidden biases or biases which is not unknown in the RCTs, and that may actually divert the data or result in a very wide group. Then this topic is very important because it is the nutrition is the very important topic in the pediatric age group, and funding is from WHO, so it is not from the private sector. So if any study is done from the pharmacological company or from private sector, then before interpreting that data, we have to think whether there is any bias related to that the company's group involved in that. Then what I found here they doesn't mention is they said that they have excluded the person or excluded the children who have not used the who use the food fortification at the point of care, but they doesn't mention whether they have used same thing for the control group also. So that is the main difference. So it may cause the diversity, which may lose the diversity in the study result. Then the duration of the study is also very variable. To no effect on the growth, especially on the height, we required a larger duration of the study, which is very small in the most of the study for 1 to 2 years. So we cannot say about the height impact of on the height due to the micronutrient supplementation. Then otherwise this study is very good studies, and Dr. Dattatray sir has done very well justice in these studies. And but WHO already has said that at the point fortification is more important than the centrally fortification. And I also think in India, where sickle cell disease and most of the part of world where sickle cell disease, malaria and thalassemia is very common, adding iron as a blanket may sometimes related with some issue, because in some studies in malaria endemic area, iron is shown associated with the adverse outcome in the malaria endemic zone. And we all seen the advertise on TV, ki bhai Horlicks low and all these things low. And if we go with the study, ki bhai centrally fortification of food is going to benefit, then everyone will try that food. And I think it will not be very right advice. And I think what this study shown, ki there is no benefit of centrally blanket fortification. We should follow that, and we should only advise what is needed for that patient or specific age group according to need, and rather than the blanket fortification. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Taide sir. A great discussion and observation too. I will take advantage for 1 minute and discuss that in relevance with today's topic. We could attend, all the ladies pediatrician could attend the excellent presentation by Dr. K. Elizabeth ma'am in conference in Nasik. And Dr. Suchitra, our second presenter, was team for that panel discussion. And with her request, she has agreed us to participate in today's journey of Maharashtra IAP. I request her to share pearls of wisdom, and we should know the expert guidance which was given by Elizabeth ma'am and aptly given to all the pediatricians who were present there. Dr. Suchitra's introduction is already done by Dr. Jay Bhandarkar. Welcome, ma'am. The screen is yours. Please share your screen.
Ma'am, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Chitra, ma'am.
Yeah.
Listen me.
Please make full
Yes.
screen. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Is it visible now? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So wonderful people and wonderful presentation by Dr. Dattatreya. It was really a very good job done, and I have been listening to and also have studied this article before also. Yes, there are good things that we have to learn from this article about how to do the food fortification. It is again the region based. So as I go through the presentation, this will just enlighten us about how we are fortifying the food, or whether we need to do it at regional level, or it is based on the entire country. This was the huge discussion even in the last conference that we attended. So now coming to the presentation part by the complementary feed. So quickly we have to review why 6 months to initiate. So this has already been a big discussion of debate. So why at 6 months, not before that or not after, or why is it too long that we wait till 6 months? So after a long RCT trials and all the Lancet trials, and there is a meta-analysis which has shown that the requirements of the newborns being all over the world, wherever they are, the nutrient needs from the breast milk are not so sufficient alone for the growth of the baby. So earlier to start. So whether it is at 4 months or 6 months is a debate happening. There are evidences. It is actually, we need to go with the child-based rather than going with the month-based. But as a culture and Indian practices, what we have seen, taking our country into consideration, what we are supposed to learn is taking evidence from evidence-based medicine. Why at 6? The thing is, there is an evidence. Next slide, I'll show you about the evidence. Now, next is like learn how to chew and bite is a time, one thing, and then the mature digestive system, because the starch and protein and fat have to be digested and the intestines have to develop over the period of time, which is noted at 6 months. That was the reason. And also semi-solid food can be held in mouth. That is important. So anything that has to go inside, it has to be held in mouth. So is 6 months the right time to initiate? So these are the reflexes. When we see the neurodevelopment in a child, what we see in an infant, we see that the tongue thrust, the tongue protrusion, gag reflex, all these start beginning to disappear. So as they disappear, the child allows the food to come inside the mouth, hold the food, only then it gets swallowed. So there is a phasic bite, we call it as a tongue thrust disappearance and appearance of a phasic bite. This is the basic evidence that will suggest that the child is able to accept the solids. So when we notice this is noted only when we have the regular visitations by the parents for the sake of vaccination. When we see in the child well baby clinics, they come for vaccinations at 2.5, 3.5. So when they come for the 6 months vaccination, for the flu vaccination, that is the right time we can see. Or when you see them earlier also at 4 months, then you can see the behavior of the child or the acceptance, whether the child is able to hold the tongue inside or not protruding the tongue every time. So this is the time that it is a time for him or her to start up the feeds. And when is it the right time to counsel is 6 months well baby visit for anticipatory nutrition guidance. This has to be made a mandatory in your well baby clinic chart. So this gives us an importance to counsel the parents regarding what food to start, how to start, what is the consistency, what is the frequency, and what is the right quantity, quality, how safe it has to be given. All these things have to be discussed. So 6 months, 6 attributes, 6-minute talk, all the 6s added gives the wisdom to the parents. So why this is needed? See how much is the energy from the breast milk and what is the extra that is needed above the ages. So we see the graph here, which is showing that the energy from the breast milk up to 5 months and is sufficient. But above that, what is happening? We require, there is an energy gap. Energy gap increases as it progresses over the duration of months. So in infancy, the right age we have come across is the 6 to 8 months. So it is right that we can start at 6 months for all infants. Now we have this common tradition over in India, which is called as Anna Prasana. Anna is nothing but rice. So the first food, what is it? No need or no doubt about it. It is the rice that has to be introduced. Prasana is the something that is good to be, started eating. Okay, so that this is what is followed in every part of the country in different cultures. So 6th month, 6th day, that is what is followed. So this has to be encouraged. When the parent come for the visits, this has to be encouraged. So we have to encourage them what they are starting with and how they are cooking it. So what are the importances of cooking, the way they are doing it? So amylase rich technology has to be discussed in the 6-minute talk. And the food that has to be given, it should not be washed thoroughly because thiamine is deficient again if you wash the rice thoroughly, polished rice. So this is all have to be discussed. That makes our job easy to prevent all the deficiencies. And which foods to consider for the feeding? Yes, there are 7 food groups. In the 7 food groups at any given point of time, what diversity we were talking about is 4 food groups have to be there. So the first food group, all the 4 food groups will be there if you see the first time when we give the food in the form of a kheer, which has the cereal, which has the milk content, which has the ghee in it, which adds the oil in it. And then we have even the kesar also that is put over it for the coloring. Also, it increases the flavor also. So when the flavors are met together, this is the right food to be started for any infant in the beginning. So what is the consistency? When we look at the consistency, how they have to be, increasing over a period of time. Stage 1, it has to be in a puree form. So that puree have to be made very, it is just a semi-solid starting. It should not be too liquidy, not too hard to stick to the spoon. So it has to just flow from it. It should not stick. It should not completely flow. So that is the consistency when offered. The child keeps it in mouth and gulps it. So then as the chewing and the biting phase develops more, we can see that the crush, you can go with the coarse texture. So these foods are lumpy foods that can be introduced in stage 2 from 7 to 9 months. So don't just base them on like now, today is the 7th month, you can start up with this. So we have to be very cautiously encouraging them, saying that once your child is growing, when you see that child appetite is increasing, as the child is taking these foods, now change on to the next course. So that is the reason we have given the age group, there's a gap between the ages. And as the child is coming to nearing to 1 year, that is in 9 to 12 months, that is when the solids have to be just simply cooked and mashed. There is no need of making it into a coarse texture. Here, it requires more of the chewing movements. These chewing movements not only enable the child's muscular strength in the face, but also it enables the child to have a neurodevelopment, better neurodevelopment outcome. And there should not be any salt added up to 1 year and sugar. There is a huge debate on this event also, because their taste starts at the earliest. So we encourage the parents, saying that all these natural salt and sugar, whatever are there, are already present in the food, need not be added to the foods. So no salt added or sugar added foods have to be given up to 2 years. Now coming to frequency. So how frequently are we supposed to go with? So frequency is a breastfeeding will be 10 to 12 times on day one when they start up. It should not go like a continuous way wherein you stop the breastfeeding and go for this, or when to give. So these are the common questions asked by a mother or a family member when how frequently they have to feed. So the breastfeeding frequency have to be maintained, and then the frequency comes down with the complementary feeding 2 times in a day. So then comes amount of the complementary feeding. So 1 spoon in the morning, that is about the quantity also you have to mention, that is 15 ml. And what are the things? The things will be again based on the cultural practices, whether it could be a ragi, I mean, any cereal that they have started with. Cereals, even millets also. The other day, even the debate was like, even millets can be started as an early food. There is nothing like indigestion may happen, because even millets do have the starch and they also can be digested based on the genetic factors of the area they belong to. So as the day 1, day 2, day 3, and day 4, that is prescribed here. This is from the WHO chart, what I have taken. So by the end of the 6 months, when they are coming to the 7th month, they should be able to go up to 60 ml quantity per day. So this is how they have to go. That is starting with 1 spoon, going for the 60 ml. That is over a period of 1 week, and then going next to the next month, they have to increase the feeds. All this is dependent on the stomach size. We should ensure them that 30 ml per kg of the body weight is the time of the stomach at 6 months of age. So allow only 20 ml per kg of the feed and keep the remaining space for digestive juice and air and churning. This has to be encouraged always. So what is the calorie requirement? At 6 to 8 months, it is 200, and then 9 to 11 months, it is up to 300. And coming to 12 to 23 months, it is only 550 kilocalories. This is what is required for the baby. And if you are able to counsel them regarding this issue, most of our work is done. What are the attributes of culturally acceptable? Good quality, easily prepared, right in consistency, soft texture, gradually changing the texture. It should be easily digestible, palatable with a nutritive value, and small quantity of feeds, gradually increasing the frequency with age. 7 food groups out of 7, 5 have to be considered at any given point of time. During illness, consider more of the liquids. The child may not be able to take the solids so frequently. And then breastfeeding to be continued. This is the 8th food group that has to be that is been added to. Now the strong pillars we know for the complementary feeding, that is time, adequacy, appropriate, and safe. Why at all this? They have to be offered at least 8 times before deciding that the baby doesn't like it. So any food has to be like 7 to 8 times it has to be offered to the child, saying that he or she doesn't like it. So offering the same vegetable again and again, they may increase the acceptance also. Once you give, the child intake second time also. So encourage the mothers that this can be done. Anything that is offered 7 times becomes a habit and they will like it later. This can be expressed even for the flavor bridge also. What we have seen, like in pregnancy, if the mother takes some food, that will also be accepted by the baby. When you see that was seen in some journal also have studied the carrot juice taken by mother earlier, that they have noted that the baby was also interested in taking the carrot juice initially. So this is how the flavor bridges form. Similarly, if we encourage on this feeding, all this depends on the counseling. What is the dietary diversity and how to take care of it during the complementary? There is different introducing or child having different types of feeds so that the nutrient requirements are adequately met. How the fortification comes into picture. See, when the foods are fortified, we have all the elements, micronutrients. We need not discuss about each micronutrient, whether given in grams or in milligrams, whether the child is requiring, needing the necessity, meeting to the necessity. So when food groups are given, it automatically takes in all this. When dietary diversity is considered, automatically the plate, the rainbow plate, we call it as, with all the food groups, if that is included, we need not think about what foods have to be fortified with. Now, coming to the guiding principles for this appropriate complementary feeding, we have to continue the breastfeeding on demand up to 12 years, up to 2 years, and also beyond. Some say that at 2 years, they need to stop it. It need not be. It is mother specific and the baby specific always. And practice response feeding, applying the principles of psychosocial caring. This responsive feeding is one thing which will encourage the bonding as well as the feeding practices to improve. And good hygiene and raw food is important. minimum dietary diversity to meet the daily energy and nutrient requirements is more important. To increase the feeding times on frequency and introduce one food at a time, not multiple foods. Again, that will decrease the selection of the food. And during illness, increase fluid intake and more of the breastfeeding. This is what is about responsive feeding. Feed infants directly, only assist the older children. Don't force them to have the food. We often see that child is not eating, they keep on forcing. The forcible eating will definitely make the child neglect that food or to dislike that food item. So if the child refuses food, experiment combinations, change the plates, change the color, change the texture, change the variety. This is what they need. So make the rainbow plate. That is what we always often show them, the colorful plate, or put the colorful vegetables, make some changes or dimensions, like fruit can be cut in a form of a caterpillar, put it in the form of a butterfly, put it in the form of pomegranates added to that, showing that it is a picture. Now we are going to have this. So they enjoy that kind of food. So include in the activity, make them eat it, rather than saying that putting only one juice and just pumping inside doesn't encourage. So minimize their distractions. Usually nowadays, everybody is busy with the cell phone, showing the video and giving the food. This is what is practiced. Discourage such things, make a bonding so that physical bonding and also their neurological development will be better. So always discourage such things. If you remember, when older days where the child was shown the Chandamama or the moon, what they have shown and made the child to eat. Nowadays, the moon is not seen. So we are showing them other things. Better sing, ask the mother to sing something and or to talk and feed the child. So there are recommendations what iron can do. Why the micronutrient iron has got so much of importance. Even before the study also, the Dr. Dattatreya has well presented. Why iron deficiency? Because iron not only is with anemia, without anemia also there is the thing. So there in a school performance, this study has been taken from a Chennai-based study where they have, the students were examined at one point. The mathematical test, mild mathematics test was done. So 71% of the students of them who did not fare well, they had iron deficiency without anemia. And 72% had iron deficient with anemia. This number, which will depict us that definitely iron has a role in the memory also. It defects how, because it has the property to be involved in many of the oxidizing as a catalyst action also in the body. So introduce iron-rich foods right at 6 months of age. That is the reason natural iron in the form of jaggery is introduced, in the form of ragi, the millets it is introduced, which are rich in sources of iron. And introducing iron for those babies who are premature or for those babies who are underweight will encourage the child to be not lost to the iron deficiency anemia or not to be lost to have pica type of findings. If your child is a preterm or low birth weight, iron drops as we start earlier should be continued till 6 months. Usually they stop at 1 month, 2 months as the child is growing weight. Should not forget not to stop before 6 months. And at 6 months when we introduce, so see to these things, because even the vitamin C also enhances the iron absorption. We have to emphasize on this point. And don't introduce any infant to the cow's milk. It is a common practice. By 4 months, the parents do come with us asking about buffalo milk or cow milk, which is good. So cow milk is for cows, buffalo milk is for buffaloes, and human milk is for the babies. So we have to be very specific about this. And as we are going through this breastfeeding week, we also encourage and we say that God has given such a beautiful gift to the woman that she can give the food without any cost. It is costless. I mean, it is such a good thing that we can encourage on the scenarios. After 12 months, what to consume and how much to consume. Even when you introduce this, because the digestion, the weight-casein ratio also differs, and the digestive system will be prepared to take this consumption of milk in these forms, think about what milk they have to be. Dilution is more important. Don't dilute the cow's milk. The cow's milk can be given appropriately. And then iron deficiency exists in Indian scenarios in many of the states. So we have to really look into this picture, and more studies are needed where you even in an OPD when you come, don't simply look at an anemia and say that is an iron deficiency, because yes, iron can be deficient without anemia also. So we have to be looking about the studies and do better about this. So what are the various myths and misconceptions related to complementary feeding? That is, the locally available cheap and seasonal foods are not good. They're not so healthy, but they are. So this myth have to be disconnected or discouraged. Costly imported fruits. Nowadays, everybody comes as first started fruit. Previously, they used to ask for banana, but now they ask for all kinds of fruits which are not. Kiwi is the first fruit they want to introduce for the child. We have never seen berries. Somebody have to introduce. That is good for the European countries because that is their locally available food. But for us, whatever is locally available food, we have to emphasize on it. And fruit juices are preferred and considered more nutritious. That decreases again the fiber content, and this have to be discussed with the parents. Health drinks, supplements, and protein powders with exaggerated claims like your Horlicks and all, which are nutritious, enriched with vitamins. You get the Pediasure, Cerigro. Everybody by 2 years come with Cerigro, and by 5 years he is into obesity. He is into type 2 diabetes. He is into other end of the malnutrition. So any products or foods promoted by celebrities must be good. This is one myth. It has to be broken because we have to encourage that these celebrities should come out saying that breastfeeding is good. They should encourage on that. They should say that natural foods like natural fruits are better having this rather than a Mazda advertisement wherein we have seen a heroine always having a Mazda. So children also tend to go for that, or a cola or any other drink wherein they find the energy and they can jump and go around. Instead of that, if they can offer the coconut water that is really good for the child, they can come out with the newer ideas about it. So we have to have a say about this at the state level also. Ultra processed food, attractively packed, costly cold storage food promoted by big companies, these are all magic foods. So these have to be discouraged at every level. So what to avoid in complementary feeding is avoid the delay in starting complementary feeding, avoid outside artificial packaged foods, avoid the excessive sugar, salt, or trans fatty foods, and avoid all these ultra processed and refined foods. Avoid bottle feeding. Says at times they say mother gets tired and wants to give a one bottle feed in a day. That is also to be discouraged. Middle of the night, she can't wake up. She's a working woman. Yes, she can do that, but it is not a bottle. Always a bottle has a spoon. Use the spoon rather than the bottle in case if it is breastfeeding at 1 or 2 episodes, not direct breastfeeding. And don't make a mother like an animal wherein she can express and keep it and leave. Except for those exceptional cases where the mother is a working woman, she can do that. But otherwise, always a direct breastfeeding is to be encouraged. And avoid feeding while watching television. Mother watches the television, mother does some chatting with somebody or is busy with the phones, and she feeds the baby on the other side. There is no bonding in that. It is only just a give and take relation. So unless the mother concentrates on the child, talks to the child while feeding, that feeling will not be spread on and the relations will maintain a long life. Avoid forced feeding. Feeding should be, again, I said, responsive feeding have to be encouraged about, and avoid overfeeding also, which may lead to the other end of the nutrition. Avoid foods that may cause choking. When we introduce the finger foods, we have to be very carefully saying that an adult should be, or somebody should be monitoring the child when they have these finger foods. Thank you. It was for the time that you are given. Hope I'm crossed my time, ma'am.
Yeah, a little bit, but excellent presentation, and you talked from your heart. I'm really happy that you have given time to us. Now move on to other part. May I request Dr. Mohanty sir to give his expert comments?
Thank you, Dr. Chitra. I am very happy today. It's the second year of journal journey. And the first day of the second year, the day is really done. We have switched to normal research studies, paper-wise studies, to a review or to the complete review, as Dr. Dattatreya has pointed out. And he has been very kind to tell us what strength, more strength is there of these meta-analysis and reviews than the single papers. Our expert has rightly pointed out that we should take the studies for this meta-analysis where the objectives are same, almost same, or the methodology is same. If the methodology is different, they are really excluded. So rigorously, it should be excluded. That's what ideally it should be done. Nice, Dr. Dattatreya, the day is done, and his message to give in Indian scenario, it may not be relevant to us, as our expert has pointed out. But the whole idea to present this paper published in Lancet, to see what is happening elsewhere and how things are improving with supplementation. We are not insisting centrally fortification is not the government policy now, for obvious reasons. We know why. And if that is possible in school health, we should improvise this, how to do it. We have got school health program. Most of the states now giving free rice, everything they are doing. So this can be attempted at the local level, then actually fortifying at the central level. And each family has to be educated, counseled, how it is done, not only to say this in formal lectures, what we do in schools now. In one of our studies here in Mumbai, we have cooked the food in the school itself, invited the parents to participate in it and directly guide them, or make the students to also to participate in the process. When they go back home, they insist, you do like this. We have seen things are being done like that. So parents, they get influence, and when their children tell them, they work more, they cooperate more. Very nice ideas. Then about Dr. Suchitra, he has done very wonderful job. She has summarized everything what is to be delivered to our grassroots like doctors like us. So from the breastfeeding, she has switched to complementary feeding, and all aspects of complementary feeding she has covered. I'm very happy. I will give a feedback. For the complementary feeding, our healthy babies, probably then everybody needs good and nice complementary feeding. But we should be focused. We should focus on the low birth weight babies. That is where we really fail. And you know, as a normal cultural practice, the mother is the nucleus in the family. When the delivery is over, they say, okay, now you take over your own responsibility. Come to the kitchen, come do that, do that. Expectation increase, including the husband also. He will expect a cup of tea when he returns from work. All those things, our traditional things go on. There is no time for actually for the mother to take care of the baby, particularly the low birth weight preterm babies. Not only that, we should train them, but also train their family members to be empathetic and participate in the process of child rearing. The mother should be freed from all the household work for 2 to 3 months. And what we have done a study here, that all low birth babies or 500 babies we have followed up on what Dr. Suchitra said, breastfeeding from birth, from breastfeeding to complementary feeding starting from 6 months, as per the recommendations she has given, up to 1 year. We could not do it for 2 years because they could not cooperate. And we have seen, although they grow below the 3rd percentile, but they grow in their own trajectory in a definite term. They grow definitely. And if you see them, they will achieve the birth weight, I mean the expected weight at 2 years beyond. But that time we should support. Iron is rightly, she has pointed out, should be given little longer. It is not only correct anemia, but the increase the iron stores. So that's a very good day done. Thank you very much, Dr. Dattatreya and Dr. Suchitra. We are grateful to every one of you, including our experts, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And Dr. Jay, please take over. Please, there is one question in the chat box here, and please see through YouTube also. If you are having any questions, quickly we can have 1 or 2 questions.
Okay. Before asking the question in the chat box, I can say one of the beautiful presentation on the complementary feeding I have heard today. And I'm not able to heard very rarely seeing patient going on OPD, but I will going to and take the pictures of it and give to the patient also, right? So that कैसे शुरू करना है and कैसे बंद करना है, how to reach it. The very clear cut messages, which is very, very important. Which in busy OPD very unable to give it, and rightly point out at 4 month age you should have a proper session for each and patient, give different appointment for giving them complementary feeding advice. And thanks for that. And yes, there is a question from our Dr. Anjali Gokarn, madam. Are there any studies where central and peripheral fortification is through iron fortified salt? So anybody, madam, can you answer that?
Sir, we do have a study about this iron fortified salts in the Chennai based study, sir. I have seen one rural based study and one is a central in from the Madras Institute also. What they have said is they have studied these children. One study was specific up to 2 years and one study have done over 5 years period. The study in which there was 5-year period follow up, they have seen, that is what I have presented here, that the mathematical simple mathematical solutions was offered to the children and they have examined. That's what they said in those children, these problem solving things, how they can overcome that. That was noted that iron deficiency with anemia, without anemia also, both are the same, 71-72%, rather than those with complete anemia. So there are things that once you supplement these children, they really fared well. So how they have grown up to the next level was also shown in the study.
Sir, if you go through the history of central fortification, the first study was 1920 from USA, where salt is fortified with iron.
Okay.
There is study.
So I have one question. When you talk about the iron supplementary, right? Preterm baby, immediately after birth, you can start it, right? And to term baby by 6-month age. To what date it can be continued? Because I have heard the lecture with this up to 5-6 years, you should supplement at least twice a dose of iron weekly for the child of the iron. Maybe 3 to 4 milligram per element iron divided or give single dose twice a week. Whether that is correct or whether the studies are there. You already said their hemoglobin be normal, but still there is iron deficiency, right? So 79-80% of child of that, and because iron have different functions also in the body.
Is the minimal requirement?
We can just highlight this point here.
Dr. Suchitra, will you respond to this?
Yes, sir. The minimum, that's what they...
See, the problem here is there is no point in continuing supplementation beyond
I'm
2
saying
years.
that the minimum requirement is 1 milligram elemental iron has to be daily supplemented. Yes,
Yeah.
not beyond 2 years. That's what start. That is what we are.
Suchitra, in
At
your
the starting point, at when the foods are introduced, that is the time they require. So,
Dr. Suchitra, may I request you to stop your video so that your audio can be heard properly? Your voice was not heard.
Yeah. Are you okay, Dr. Suchitra? Are you responding? See, the question of supplementing the salt with the iron is little aesthetically, it is little difficult. It will discolor the salt itself. The people may not accept. And the minuscule amount of iron which will go to daily intake of salt is very, very low. It is, we should think about something else, like we see palak. The spinach is a very good source, very rich in iron. And your drumstick leaves also very good in iron, and the amino acids also. Drumstick itself is good in iron. So natural sources should be chosen in the complementary feeding. Then depending on the iron supplementation beyond up to 6 months, it's fine. From we started from term babies, but beyond 2 years, there is no point in supplementing from external iron sources. That's my submission. And then to our practitioners, my humble submission is to employ someone to go to the low birth baby homes every once in a month and make a checklist to train the mothers there. We have done this study here in Kalamboli here. So that's a wonderful effect. The babies grow nicely. The incidence of infections and the mortality, morbidity was too less between in the intervention group than the control group. So this we have to innovate in our country, in a rural area where we are working. It will be taken very nicely If you employ a person also, a nurse who is maybe not a qualified nurse, train her. If she goes there, you will get a lot of goodwill you will earn, and you will increase your practice also 3-4 times. Thank you.
Thank you.
The question in the chat box: are there studies where cooking in the iron vessels prevent the iron deficiency anemia?
Can you hear me, sir? Am I
Are there any studies
Yes, yes.
where cooking in the
Yes.
iron vessels prevent iron deficiency anemia?
Very true. That's what jaggery. How is it made? Jaggery is made. That is the reason jaggery is introduced. Jaggery is cooked in the very mean thing is how iron is imbibed into the jaggery is through that. So cooking need not be completely on these iron vessels because iron also should not be in excess. That is what is there. It has to be given in right doses.
Right.
And what Palak was having, all these spinach and other things, they are rich in iron, but phytates which will inhibit the absorption.
Right.
So along with that, if you give some vitamin C supplements, that is what in the form of citrus fruits, that will enhance the absorption of this iron. And iron sources are more non-vegetarian sources. That is what is thought, but it has to be come out because those are vegans. Those who are vegans have to be thinking on these jaggery based foods also, like increasing on your jaggery with other things like a peanut chicky, what we call it as with chicky,
Right.
that is early powdered forms. So it has both the things. Til laddu also, whatever cultural practices they follow, they have to introduce this, which are rich in iron. Til is rich in iron. Also with ragi, ragi has rich in iron and calcium. So these are the foods that have to be encouraged, sir.
Thank you.
Yes. Dr. Jay, any other questions?
There are no questions, but I have invitation to Dr. Suchitra for the making quiz on the micronutrients and on that. I will come to you. I will take your mobile number from Dr. Chitra Kulkarni madam and call you for this so that we can do something different also. So wonderful discussion. Thanks for that. And they're already completed a great idea. Dr. Anjali already responded to this invite. So over to Dr. Dhananjay for the Thanksgiving session, which is very important. Is always there. Dhananjay आहेस का? Dr. Dhananjay,
Dr.
our IAP
Dhananjay,
secretary.
Raigad
Raigad
IAP
IAP
Secretary Dr. Dhananjay is requested to give vote of thanks. Dr. Jay, you can go ahead and please do the needful.
Okay, thank you. So I thank from my bottom heart to our expert, Dr. Naresh Tade sir.
Dr. Dhananjay is there, I think.
नाही आहे पण नाही तो जॉईन होत नाहीये पण ठीक आहे जस्ट कम्प्लीट द प्रोसेस सो थँक्स टू डॉक्टर तायडे सर फॉर his expert advice and as for presenter Dr. Dattatreya Kulkarni from Latur as a speaker and as well as Dr. Suchitra for beautiful presentation today. Thanks for that and thanks to all dignitaries, Dr. Hemant Gangulia, President, and Dr. Nevan Mohanty sir. He has just completed 3 months back his bypass surgery, but he bypassed all these obstacles for this our beautiful journey, not for general journey. You can call him at any time. He will give the correct advice and he will be there for you. Thanks for that. And our moderator, क्या कहने हैं, Dr. Chitra, she is already ready behind me कि फलाया तैयार नहीं है, ये नहीं आया है, वो नहीं आया है, पूरा करना है. But and Dr. Vishal, beautiful flyer, 11th hour, but still it's okay. And Dr. Wankhede sir, again, even during his busy OPD, joined today. And all of you on the dais,
Dr.
and Dr.
Neha
Ingre,
yes.
Madam Dhananjay also probably listening. And so thank you all the viewers
and
for beautiful.
Pallavi also.
Pallavi, Madam Dharmadikar Madam, she's our digital, I can say, expert. And she's taken care, sending her bills every month. And Dr. Amol Kaur is always worrying of, sir, bill बढ़ते जा रहा है, मतलब कुछ problem नहीं है. As this academics going on, we're going to spend more and more on the academics. So thanks all of you for continuing this beautiful journey journal. And this one of your learning, I always say. And, thanks. Join for even other sessions also, which is important. We're doing very regularly. And dhanyawad. Good night.
Joy, I thought now you will call us for a dinner. And now everybody can join the dinner
Please stop the live streaming.
at their own
Live
places.
streaming.
I'm planning the.
Sir, may I
Please stop
ask
the live streaming.
Pallavi to stop the recording, please?
This is all. It should be off the record.